Once upon a time in the village of Vilka, somewhere in the middle belt of Nigeria, there lived an old man, a very rich old man, who had one son, but he had a lot of slaves. He was very rich, he had a lot of slaves. And then he thought to himself what he would do with his belongings, how he would write his will so that no one would cheat his child. So he decided to send this boy to school to acquire knowledge. And by the reason being that when he acquires knowledge, this boy will be able to spend his wealth sensibly. Will be able to invest it, be able to use it sensibly. So while the boy was away studying abroad, he thought deeply that he needed to take that decision of writing his will, and he needed to use this opportunity while the boy was away. So what happened is that while the boy was away, while the man was thinking seriously how he was going to ensure that he made a will where nobody would cheat his child out of it, this old man fell very ill. And he was afraid whether he was going to die before the boy returns from the journey. This old man became so afraid and concerned about what would happen after his demise. He was so afraid that the slaves could kill his son. He was afraid what to do with the slaves. He was afraid how he would write his will. He was afraid of what would happen if he should die before his son returns from study. So he was afraid how much of his property he should leave for his son, whether he should leave anything for the slaves, what he should do with the slaves. He was worried whether the slaves would serve his son the way they served him. A lot of thoughts was going through this old man's head. He was seriously worried. He was sick. Was very sick, and he continued to worry. He didn't know what to do. Those days, there were no lawyers that could help him to share his property. There was no lawyer that could defend his son. There was no lawyer in those days. There were no lawyers. No lawyer services available then too. So the man became very, very sick, even to the point of death. Actually, after the prolonged illness of the old man gave up the ghost. He died. The news got to his son that his father had died. The chief of the slaves was very happy. He was thinking of all sorts of things that he would do. He felt that nobody would control him. He felt that the son does not know what the extent of the riches of his father. So he was so happy. And then the boy decided to come home. He took a break from his study. And the whole villagers came to console him. His father's closest friend also came to him, spoke with him, gave him some advice. What the chief of the slaves did not know is what the old man wrote in his will. The old man did not want anyone to cheat his son of his property, and because he had a lot of it. So what did he do? This old man decided to will all his property, all his belongings to the chief slave. He now will the chief slave. Okay, he willed all his property to the chief slave with the mind that if his son discovered the will, he would decide to choose the chief slave whom he had willed all his belongings to. After all, whoever owns the slave owns everything that belongs to the slave. So when the father's closest friend discovered what this old man had done, he understood immediately what this old man wanted his son to do. So what did he do? He called the boy, advised him that on the day that the whole villagers will gather to share his father's property for him according to the will. That was the practice in those days. Whenever anyone died, there was no lawyer to dispute anybody's property, so therefore it has to be done according to what was written down. Okay, but now in the case of this old man, he willed everything that belonged to him to the chief slave. So this boy thought and thought and thought. At first he was angry. He wondered why his father would have to will everything to the chief slave. He wondered of all the things his father could leave for him. He had to leave the chief slave. Wisdom of the old man. If it was you, what would you choose? Would you choose the houses? Would you choose all the slaves? What would you choose? Would you choose the chief slave? Would you choose the money? Would you choose all the farm lands? Well, everyone was waiting for that day when the old man's property will be shared, when the old man's will be read, when everybody was waiting, including the son was waiting, even the chief slave was waiting. All the slaves, all the other slaves were jealous of the chief slave. They felt the old man loved him more than them, and all that. So the day came to share the will. The boy was around. The chief slave was very happy. He was so happy he wore his best slave uniform that day. He wore his chief slave uniform to show everybody that he was the chief slave of the old man. And then the boy came to the village square where the old man's property was to be shared. Then he remembered his father's closest friend's advice. He thought, okay, this man was a very good friend of his father's, so he couldn't have advised him wrongly. Looking at the chief slave as he was just jumping up and down, he felt, man, he had made it in life. Even the son was left with nothing, and all that. He was ready to go with everything the man had. Did not care about the son. So at the point where everything was handed over to him, the chief slave, as soon as he picked on everything that was handed over to him, according to the old man's wish, they asked the boy to now choose from what is left to be picked. He then chose to pick the chief slave, whom his father had willed all his belongings to. And people said, why? The chief slave was even angry. Why? He said, well, his father willed all his property to him, and he chose him because whoever owns the chief slave owns everything. That's it. That's how it goes. The wisdom of the old man. And then everybody in the village was so happy for the boy. The father's closest friends cheered for him. They were so happy for him. And then everybody was happy. The whole village was roaring. The chief slave was not happy at all. He was to serve the son, the old man's son, along with his fellow slaves, meant the farmlands, all the animals and everything that the old man had left behind. Thank you so much for watching. Until I come your way again with another wonderful video of mine, it's bye-bye.